So, folks, the presidential debate is this Thursday. The first presidential debate, Thursday, June 27th, between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And Trump, predictably, though in my opinion, ill-advisedly, is making a big deal out of the fact that CNN is hosting it and that the refs are going to be biased. And I'll give my sort of more thorough take on that in a moment. But Kasie Hunt, who is an anchor at CNN now, formerly of MSNBC, but she brings on Donald Trump's press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, to talk about the terms of the debate this Thursday. And so she sets up the interview in a predictable way, but then takes offense at the response.
Themselves as professionals, as they have covered campaigns and interviewed candidates from all sides of the aisle. I'll also say that if you talk to analysts of debates previous, that if you're attacking the moderators, you're usually losing. So I really want to focus in on...
Well, if you're winning in the polls, you're usually winning. And if the moderators are less popular than the candidate, then you can attack them and not have it hurt you too much. I don't think the average American is too bothered that Trump is, sniping at CNN here. I still don't think it's smart for reasons I'll get to later, but I don't think it's going to hurt him.
And just coming into this is why people hate the media and don't trust the media at this point. That is not the way a journalist phrases a question.
Yeah.
To a press spokesperson. Like, you're coming in clearly with an agenda, clearly with a bias. You just ask a question. Well, you've been attacking the moderators. Can you explain that? That's your job. Your job is not to put all this framing on it.
Of course. But what makes this so crazy is if you listen to the framing, okay, so, usually when you attack the moderators, you're losing. And yes, the premise of this interview is that you're attacking the moderators. What's up with that? Her answer seems perfectly in line with the question. Despite that, Kasie Hunt takes offense. So let's take a look.
Right.
On what these two men are going to do and say when they stand on the stage. Now, we have a little bit of what Donald Trump, your boss, has said in trying to set expectations for this debate. I want to play a series of his comments, and then we'll talk about it. Watch.
Maybe I'm better off losing the debate. I'll make sure he says I'll lose the debate on purpose. Maybe I'll do something like that.
I assume he's going to be somebody that will be a worthy debater.
Should I be tough and nasty and just say you're the worst president in history? Or should I be nice and calm and let him speak?
So he's basically saying there, well, will I let Joe Biden win? It does seem as though many Republicans have set the bar very low in terms of...
Okay. This is very deceptive framing as well. He's saying, maybe I'll let Joe Biden win. The reason Trump is saying maybe I should let him win is because Trump and the Republicans know what everybody who's paying attention to this knows, which is that this is a test for Joe Biden. If Joe Biden completely tanks, if he malfunctions, if he is in a puddle on the floor by the end of this thing, it's early enough in the calendar for the Democrats to replace him. So when Trump says maybe I'll let him win, that's why he's saying maybe I'll let him win. Maybe I'll let him win the debate so he stays in the race because I'd rather run against Biden in the fall than Newsom, right? So that's why he would let him win. He's not just doing it to lower expectations for himself. That's clearly what he was talking about in that interview there. But she makes it sound like he's just lowering expectations because sometimes candidates like to lower expectations. That's really not what's happening here.
Yeah, well, not only that, she's speaking as if, and clearly she's speaking on behalf of the Biden campaign and everyone who supports it. She's just very clear the whole way she's posturing. You're speaking as if you're winning.
Right.
You're not winning. Biden is losing in what? Every battleground state? In pretty much every poll
single one
out there?
Yeah.
So what are you talking about? You're speaking as if they're the desperate party and not the Biden campaign.
Right. Exactly.
And you're supposed to be a journalist?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
And then they'll do a whole segment about how the public has lost their face in the media, with the fault, of course, being in the public. We need to educate people. People need to be more educated about how to consume media and how to separate fact from fiction. Now everybody's getting it from social media, and there's no screening of facts there. That's how they'll explain the fact that everyone can see that you are propagandists, that you're not doing news anymore.
Yep.
Low in terms of arguing that Joe Biden is basically senile. Now you have people like Doug Burgum coming out and saying, well, President Biden's very accomplished, trying to set expectations in a different place. What do you expect from Joe Biden?
Well, first of all, it takes someone 5 minutes to Google Jake Tapper, Donald Trump, to see that Jake Tapper has consistently
stop this interview if you're going to keep
President
attacking
Trump
my colleagues.
to Adolf Hitler.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you
I'm
continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk.
Okay. You started this by saying, so Trump's been attacking the refs. Like, you addressed that.
Right.
So she has a right to respond to that. You injected that into the conversation.
Right.
I'm sure that
you literally asked her that question.
I'm sure that was part of the pitch of, can you do this interview now? We want to talk about the debate. So even if you didn't raise that topic, even if you didn't start the interview with, hey, if you're attacking the moderator, it means you're losing and Trump is attacking the even if you didn't start that, you're bringing on the spokesperson for a candidate to talk about the debate that your network is hosting, knowing that part of his messaging right now is to attack CNN. Therefore, you are inviting that feedback. Now, you don't have to agree with that feedback. You can push back on that feedback. You're totally within your rights to do that. But that's not what she does. What she does is she says, if you keep doing that, we're going to end this. And then she ends it. So let's watch this one more time and we'll let it go to the end.
Place. What do you expect from Joe Biden?
Well, first of all, it takes someone 5 minutes to Google Jake Tapper, Donald Trump, to see that Jake Tapper has consistently frequently likened President Trump to Adolf Hitler.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
Yes.
If you are here to speak on his behalf, I am willing to have this conversation.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay.
Now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Caroline, thank you very much for your time. You are welcome to come back at any point. She is welcome to come back and speak about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will have equal time to Joe Biden when they both join us now at later this week in Atlanta for this debate. Our thanks to Caroline.
I mean, that is just stunningly unprofessional. And you're right. It was a setup. This was to get all the libs.
She baited the question. She baited her with the question.
Yeah.
And then when she answered it in the way that she obviously was going to, you asked her about that.
Right. And
she starts to explain why they're attacking the refs. And she puts on this whole show. Oh, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that you're responding to the question that I asked you.
Exactly. That's literally what you put that in the setup in a particularly antagonistic way to provoke a response. And then it's one thing if you're going to do that and have a debate on the air. All right, that's, sensationalism, whatever. At least you're having the debate. But no, when she goes to answer, you kick her off. You kick her off and say that's out of bounds. That's beneath this network? What are you talking about? That was baked into the question. That's baked into the whole issue.
And another dimension of it may be to inoculate themselves against questions from the fucking deranged blue MAGAs that they're giving Trump a platform by hosting a debate.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that's another possibility. They know they're going to get shit from the other side that says that, CNN is in the pocket of Donald Trump, right? Exactly. So here's what Kasie Hunt, she tweets out. You come on my show, you respect my colleagues, period. I don't care what side of the aisle you stand on, as my track record clearly shows. As you can see here, she got a ratio here, 22,000 likes to 35,000. Not as bad as Mike Pence, but still not good, believe me, not good. So I responded, when your colleague is part of the story, i.e. the debate moderator that one candidate has accused of bias, they're fair game to discuss, obviously. Obviously.
Right. Your job is journalism.
You have her there to discuss the debate.
Yeah.
If your colleague is the moderator and Trump has an issue with the moderator, of course he's going to come up. It is not out of bounds to bring him up. It's not like she just took a swipe at Wolf Blitzer's hair out of nowhere. Right. What she said was obviously relevant to what she came on there to talk about. And then she kicks him off. And, she did that so that I think you're right. I think she baited her into a confrontation so she could hang up on her and have a big moment.
Well, because when you see what she did, it's planned.
Yeah.
It's not in the moment. She was ready as soon as she mentioned somebody's name. Ma'am, she was ready. With that was all a setup. They just invited her on to do that so that the 16 people who watch CNN would go, as they did. As they did. I sent that over to you. Greg Foreman, Black Conservative, did a segment about The View. The View showed it, and they all, as soon as the clip, the audience goes wild for the brave Kasie Hunt, brave multimillionaire Kasie Hunt.
Yeah, I should have pulled some of the positive reactions and put it as part of the slideshow. I didn't think to do that, but I'm sure they were out there, even though it was mostly a negative response.
All you have to do is go to George Takei and Mark Hamill. You're covered.
There you go.
You want to find the cringiest shit Libby's takes you can find on any issue of the day. Those two accounts have you covered.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. But I will add something. I do think it is a mistake for Trump to be making too big a deal over the moderators, to be crying too much about the bias. And the reason for that is because of where he stands in the polls and where he stands on the two biggest issues of the day, which are inflation and the border. Those are the top issues on almost every voter's mind. And we've never seen two issues dominate the minds of American voters going into a campaign as much as those two issues are consistently 1 and 2. For some people it's 1, for some people it's 2, but those are almost always the top two issues. And so from a campaign standpoint, if you're Donald Trump, you see that voters are overwhelmingly most concerned with the border and with inflation. The calculus here is very simple. If you're Donald Trump and you run on those two issues and you can make the campaign about those two issues, you pretty much can't lose, because Trump's poll numbers on those two big issues are much higher than Joe Biden's.
Right.
If you make the campaign about that, it's an unlosable race. If you let the media and you let the Democrats bait you into making it about all these other things, and you go off on your crazy bullshit where they can fearmonger about how unstable you are, then you can lose, because you're making it about all these other things. The top two issues of the day are issues that are right in your wheelhouse, for better or for worse, right? I'm just putting my pundit hat on here. You got to stay laser focused on those issues, and it's unlosable. You let them steer you down all these side streets and avenues where now you're attacking Jake Tapper, and you need an answer on the abortion issue, which he says he's against a national ban now, so that'll probably be good enough. If you notice, a lot of these swing states are playing out exactly as Russ and I said they would, which is a state like Arizona where it's Trump +9. You have Ruben Gallego, the Senate candidate, beating Kerry Lake by a couple points. That's because the voters in those states prefer Trump to Biden, but they don't want to give Republicans all the power in Washington. They want to put a Democrat in the Senate as a hedge in a post-Roe world.
Yes,
because there is no
exactly.
Roe v. Wade stopping a runaway train of Handmaid's Tale shit if the Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. So that issue is likely to hurt Republicans. It might not hurt you in these swing states as much as you may have thought, because a lot of these swing states, Arizona and Nevada mainly, they have Senate races where the voters are splitting between Trump. They're voting Trump on the presidential line, and they're voting blue on the Senate line. That, I think, is going to be very common. I think we're going to see quite a bit of that in November. So the point is, you need to run on a couple of issues that are dominating the minds of the voters and keep it about that. This other shit does not help him. It does not help him. It makes for good online content. It gets the base riled up. It's funny. It's good for podcasters like us. But if you're running his campaign, you have to say, don't be a maniac. Don't fight. Don't get baited into these sideshows. You got to run on the border and the price of groceries, and you almost cannot lose if you run on those two things, and you keep the conversation centered on those two things.
I agree. I don't think he can't spare a few jabs at the fake news media. It's part of his
No, you can do that,
appeal.
but you don't want the story coming out of the
him.
debate that he had a meltdown at Jake Tapper, because that takes the focus off of the strongest
It's not
issues.
like top 10 reasons I would date my daughter if we weren't related.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Attacking the press usually redounds to his benefit.
Yeah, but the point
Just
is, you don't want
center that.
You don't center that. You don't want the story coming out of the debate that he had a meltdown at Jake Tapper and have Biden basically skate by, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
No, he does best in these situations when he's in wisecracking New Yorker mode. Your mother should be running.
Yeah, right, exactly. Just that.
That's the kind of thing that works for him. If he handles the disdain for the moderators in that way with wisecrack, everybody knows you're fake. Everybody knows who you work for.
Everybody knows you're fake.
That's all. That's all he needs.
Yeah, because that is actually a good deflect, because they're going to come at him. Biden has to make the race about all of the shitlib talking points, right? Which that's not necessarily a great play, but given his dismal record, it's really the only thing he can do. January 6th, the 2020 stuff, and then obviously these, whatever it is, 34 convictions are going to come up over and over again.
Right.
And if you're Trump, you have to.
Well, that's it. They're gonna hit the same. Trump is morally disqualified by his character to be president thing that Hillary did.
Yeah, and if you're Trump, you have to come off of that. You have to say, well, you're fake, you're biased, and here's why he's a failure, and here's why they're bringing that up, because they have no record to run on. I would advise him, if I were advising him, to pivot off of that as quickly as possible. Because you don't want the big story to be Trump versus CNN, because then Biden's not in the headline. You want Biden to crumble and have that be the story. If you're fucking going at it with the moderators all night and he's standing there falling asleep and getting away with it, then that's an L. So we'll see. We'll see.
Listen, the smartest thing to do with Biden is, you ever have one of these teachers in school where if you didn't really want to have to pay attention that day, you'd ask them something like, why is the earth tilted on its axis? Because you knew that would take up the rest of the class time. By the end of class, they'd be talking about the time they served in Korea.
Yeah.
Just do that. Be like, hey, Joe, what about when you were a lifeguard? I heard something about that.
Yeah, right, exactly. Then that'll go on. Yeah, we used to do that in chemistry. There was a teacher who used to give us quizzes at the end of the period, and if we noticed there was 15 minutes left, this one kid raises his hand in the air. He says, "What's air made out of?" To try and get him on a thing, so we didn't have to take the quiz. That was an actual question that one of my friends asked. That was funny.
Please clap.